So what do? Our universe is vast, full of wonders. We'll explore, find strange new worlds, together.
Man, welcome back to the Nostalgia Network, where we celebrate all things 70s and 80s action, sci-fi, B-movies, and pure unadulterated nostalgia. Picture this, it's 1986, you're standing in the back corner of your local video store, your parents are up in front debating between Out of Africa and whatever else responsible adults rented, and you've got maybe 2 minutes to grab something with the most insane cover art humanly possible. Risky, subversive, but with enough explosions to get past mom and dad. That's where these movies lived. Not on the new release wall, not even on the staff picks shelf. These were the deep cuts, the ones with covers that promise insanity, skin, and explosions. Today we're taking a chronological ride through the 5 most gloriously slept on films that'll make you question why your parents ever let you have unsupervised VHS access. These are the movies that came home in those clunky plastic cases, the ones you'd rewind, by being kind, and watch 3 times in one weekend because you couldn't believe what you were seeing. Come on, man, let's press play.
There's something. I can't explain it, Raymond. There's something wrong inside, something terrible.
Remember that summer between elementary and middle school when you thought you understood movies and then something came along that melted your brain so thoroughly you weren't sure if the tape was defective or if you'd accidentally stumbled into something cosmically forbidden? That's 1979's The Visitor, baby. This Italian-American nightmare starts with John Huston. Yes, the legendary director himself, as some kind of intergalactic space Jesus, traveling to Earth to stop an evil 8-year-old girl with psychic powers who may or may not be the spawn of an ancient cosmic bird demon named Satine. Not Satan, Satine. Totally different, legally speaking. The plot, and I'm using that word generously here, involves the girl making people explode, Glenn Ford running a basketball team, Shelley Winters as a nanny, and Sam Peckinpah just existing in scenes for reasons nobody can adequately explain. He actually had trouble remembering his lines, and because of this difficulty with dialogue, his voice was dubbed over by a completely different actor. Director Giulio Paradisi, working under the name Michael Paradise because even he knew he needed witness protection, somehow convinced a legitimate Hollywood cast to appear in what can only be described as Close Encounters meets The Omen meets someone else's film school nightmare after eating bad sushi. The film bombed so spectacularly that it actually disappeared until Draft House Films rescued it from obscurity in 2013. And honestly, it's a masterpiece of incomprehensible ambition. You haven't lived until you've watched a scene where a bird attacks a little girl at a birthday party or shoots her mother who falls as she is smiling at the girl, all while Huston watches from another dimension. This is the movie you defend to your friends even though you couldn't explain a single plot point if someone held you at a laser gun point.
And lo, the kingdom of the spider shall last 1,000 years, and the people shall suffer 1,000 years.
Alright, here's a question that haunted every kid who frequented the sword and sorcery section in 1982. If Conan the Barbarian was too hard to find in stock at the rental place, what was the next best thing? Enter Ator, the fighting eagle. Italy's answer to absolutely nobody's prayers, but somehow, man, it's exactly what we needed. Miles O'Keefe, fresh off playing Tarzan and apparently thinking, less dialogue really seems to be working for me, stars as Ator, a blonde muscle man who discovers he's destined to overthrow a spider-worshipping cult and their evil high priest. Here's the incestual twist, though, if you wouldn't think it would have one. Ator is raised by a family who tells him his sister Sonia is off limits romantically, which is solid parenting, but then reveals she's not actually his sister, so their wedding is back on. Nothing says heroic fantasy quite like a plot that immediately has to backpedal on accidental incest implications. Director Joe D'Amato, and I went to school with a Joe D'Amato, this was not him, who made roughly 200 films in his career, many of which you definitely shouldn't Google at work, cranked this out for pocket change, and it shows in all the ways that we love. We're talking visible zippers on creature costumes, a hang glider made from sticks and bed sheets that Ator uses in the climax, and fight choreography that suggests the stunt coordinator's main qualification was, well, he was the guy that showed up. The film spawned 3 sequels, including Cave Dwellers, which was immortalized by Mystery Science Theater 3000. But there's something pure about this first entry. It knows it's ridiculous and just commits completely. This was the movie you'd watch at 2 a.m. during the sleepover, whispering, "Did you see that hang glider?" while trying not to wake up your friend's parents.
I was counting on you, Ator.
Boy, I thought you always counted on yourself.
It is 1995.
Open season!
Hunting is the national sport, and people are the prey.
All right, pop quiz. What do you get when you combine Australian exploitation cinema, a dystopian future that looks suspiciously like someone's ranch, and the eternal question of, what if the most dangerous game, but way more violent and weird? You're going to get Turkey Shoot from 1982, the movie that made you grateful your parents didn't actually check what you were watching in that basement. Set in a totalitarian future of 1995, which seemed impossibly far away in 1982, but way too close in 2025, this Brian Trenchard Smith directed mayhem follows political prisoners at a re-education camp who are selected to be hunted for sport by the wealthy elite. It sounds like it's going to happen to all of us, man. It sounds dark. It is dark, but it's also got a guy in a werewolf costume, a woman with a crossbow, and Steve Railsback, who you might remember from The Stuntman, giving it absolutely everything as a rebellious prisoner who refuses to be re-educated. The Australian government actually partially funded this through their film commission, then immediately regretted it when they saw what Trenchard Smith delivered. This thing makes Mad Max look like a family picnic that didn't get run over. Man, there's exploding arrows, machete fights, people getting torn apart by wild animals, and enough fake blood to fill Sydney Harbor. The film was heavily cut for its US release, where it was retitled Escape 2000, because Americans needed the future in their title to understand it's the future. But the uncut Australian version that eventually made its way to American video stores was the stuff of legend. The nude extras in the group shower scene were from a local hippie commune. The film had a $700,000 investor back out last minute, shrinking the budget and killing a helicopter chase scene, 14 days of shooting, and 15 pages of the script. But all the nudity, man, it totally stayed in. This is the tape that lived in someone's older brother's room, the one you weren't supposed to watch, but absolutely did anyway. Trenchard Smith, who'd go on to direct everything from BMX Bandits to Leprechaun 3, considers this his most notorious work. And when you've got a filmography that varied, that's saying something.
Beginning of the next century. 15 years after the Great Plague swept the earth and left a world of orphans.
Where you going?
I'm going to the city.
Here's a very specific 1984 memory. MTV is playing Duran Duran on repeat. Your parents are worried about video games rotting your brain, and someone at Atlantic Entertainment decided that what America really needed was a post-apocalyptic movie where teenage motorcycle gangs inherit the earth, but somehow everyone's hair stays and looks perfect. City Limits is that beautiful disaster, a film that asks, what if the Warriors met Mad Max, but everyone was suspiciously well-fed and optimistic about the future? After a plague conveniently wipes out all the adults, which was every teenager's secret fantasy, until they actually had to take care of things, youth gangs form motorcycle clubs and battle for territory in a crumbling Los Angeles. Leading this rebellion is, get this, Robbie Benson, the voice from Beauty and the Beast. The voice of Beast. The voice of Beast from Beauty and the Beast. Alongside a young Kim Cattrall, and somehow, they convinced James Earl Jones to show up as a corporate villain. The most unlikely of corporate villains. The plot involves an evil corporation called Sunya. Wasn't that the hot sister, not sister from Ator? Trying to take over the gangs, but honestly the story is just an excuse for motorcycle stunts and that very specific mid-80s post-apocalyptic aesthetic where everyone's clothes are torn, but clearly like designer torn. This was directed by Aaron Lipstadt, who'd previously made the surprisingly decent Android, and you can tell he's trying to say something meaningful about youth rebellion and corporate control, but the budget keeps sabotaging his ambitions. The film flopped harder than your first attempt at a kickflip, but there's something pretty charming about this optimism. Even in the apocalypse, these kids think they can make things better, God bless them. This feels like the movie you'd rent because the cover looked cool, then defend to your friends even though deep down, yeah, you knew it was kind of a mess.
Have your chance to pit your philosophy against mine. In a contest of skills played on the chessboard of my...
Look, we need to talk about 1987's Slave Girls from Beyond Infinity. Some marketing executive at Titan Productions looked at this script and said, yes, subtlety is exactly what we don't need here. And you know what? In the glorious straight-to-video landscape of 1987, son of a bitch was absolutely right. This is director Ken Dixon's shameless, spectacular, wonderfully absurd sci-fi remake of The Most Dangerous Game, again, except instead of sophisticated hunters and nuanced survival drama, we get scantily clad space prisoners escaping their captors only to crash land on a planet where a creepy rich dude named Zed hunts humans for sport. Very Turkish of them, as this film was based on The Most Dangerous Game as well, but was sold and funded based only on the title. The two lead actors, Danny, by Elizabeth Clayton, and Tissa, Cindy Beale, spend most of the runtime in outfits that can only be described as what someone in 1987 thought space prisoners would wear, which is to say, not very much. But here's the thing, and this is why you'd secretly defend this movie to your friends, it actually tries to have fun with its premise. Man, there are robot servants, cheesy laser effects, unexplained alien creatures, and dialogue that swings wildly between attempting genuine drama and just giving up entirely. As a cheeky aside, the film was condemned as indecent on the floor of the U.S. Senate by Senator Jesse Helms in 1992. Can we get a collective boo? The film was made for basically nothing. One report suggests about $100,000, which even in 1987 bought you approximately 2 decent explosions and whatever props were left over from other productions. I'm looking at you, Roger Corman. It played in exactly 0 mainstream theaters, heading straight to video store shelves where it lived in that back section you walk past quickly if an adult was nearby. Critics who actually reviewed it compared it unfavorably to everything. But they missed the point entirely. This wasn't trying to be Blade Runner. It was trying to be exactly what it is. A ridiculous Friday night rental that delivered exactly what the cover said it was gonna deliver. This was peak, this random tape I found next to my dad's TV, energy. The kind of movie that basically funded the entire video store industry single-handedly. You know, these VHS obscurities define Generation X's film education in ways our parents definitely didn't intend. From cosmic bird demons to hang-gliding barbarians to, hell, teen motorcycle apocalypses, right onto exploitation sci-fi that wasn't even trying to hide what it was. These movies represent that beautiful era when video stores were the Wild West and anything with cool cover art was fair game and snatched before The Terminator and snatched before Star Wars. Now here's the real question. Which one of these did you guys rent back in the day? Did your parents ever catch you watching Turkey Shoot and immediately regret their lenient parenting style? Did you try to explain The Visitor's plot to anyone and fail spectacularly? Are you still defending city limits to this day, even though you know, man, this makes no sense? Drop your memories in the comments below. Tell us about your video store adventures, the movies you definitely weren't supposed to watch, and any other VHS deep cuts that deserve this spotlight. And hey, if you survive this quick list, we've got plenty more where that came from. Thanks for watching, everyone. Keep rewinding those memories.